Folks. Now, uh, we'll cover Indian Express for today, and I'll only be referring to a couple of articles from Hindu, since I had a very long day yesterday, teaching for approximately 5-6 hours. So, so we'll be covering. So this will be a much shorter session today. Now. Let's before starting our meditation, I wanted to talk about. Okay, I wanted to talk about writing. That how does writing help? At times, one of the areas where I found myself lacking during this prep was writing. I was also always confident about the MCQ part. Some people have some advantages, some people have don't. I know very brilliant students, who would definitely get into this particular service and get into the best of services if they get an opportunity to write. Let's take the example of someone like Ishita Kishore. For 2 attempts, she was not able to write mains, and when it mattered, she wrote well. And that depends on, some people have that advantage of writing well. And that comes with practice. So I've been telling folks who have not been able to clear, and there are a lot of people that I know who have got into service last year and not cleared prelims this year. And this can happen with this particular examination. This is an examination where you have a lot of uncertainty when it comes to prelims, but that could also be a silver lining for you. You should take it in the right spirit, that this is an opportunity given to you to write and then express yourself better, because that is what matters in this exam. It is not your prelims knowledge which matters. It's just an add-on factor. If someone asks me that, if I get this opportunity again, I would always invest in mains rather than investing in prelims, and that's why I've been asking every one of you, and some of you have come back to me that should I prefer for prelims. Some of you have failed in this particular examination this year, so that's why I'm saying that think of it as an opportunity to write of writing mains this year and completing your mains portion. And writing is a skill which takes time, and some of this has to be pre-planned. As I've already told you, some parts of your answers cannot be thought extempore. You can't except for say essay requires a lot of extempore writing, but a lot of other portions of your answer writing are not typically extempore. So you can start that practice now. Those of you who have covered the foundations, who have finished preparing and have failed at this attempt, or have covered your coaching, or whatever way that you have covered, you should be focusing more on writing answers. You can take the help of insights, a forum, join a test series. Rather than a coaching, a test series for writing would be much better, much more helpful. And writing also helps you personally. So I mean, at times, if you are going through something, if you're in a personal dilemma of sorts, writing will bring writing that out, that this is what the options are there with me, well, instead of just thinking them aloud. That will also bring you some amount of clarity. And on a daily basis, start that habit of writing for 20-30 minutes. If you have covered a significant portion of your GS, that should be a part of your muscle memory, and you will realize that within 2-3 months that muscle memory will start working, and you can easily write those answers in like 8 or 9 minutes. But that will only come with time. So this is something that I wanted to touch upon before our today's session, because I had to discuss this with a couple of people on a call. Now, let's start with our meditation session, folks, and then we will lead up to our journaling session. Okay, folks, let's meditate for 10 minutes. For those of you who are new to the class, who's there? Okay, those of you who are new to the class, please ensure that you focus on your breath. And if you need music, you can also plug in music for 10 minutes, some kind, but that music should not be Bollywood music, it should be meditation. Now we'll be covering yesterday's Indian Express And by the way, I had uploaded yesterday's lecture just now. I mean, just before the session, I was uploading yesterday's lecture. I was caught up in the IIPA lecture, and in fact, that reminds me of something. Is Kushi there in the session? No, Kushi's not. No, Kushi is there. That reminds me of something that at times you should make sure, when you are in doubt, you should always make sure of checking and rechecking. Something like your center, where is your center? Something like your when is the exam? This thing happened yesterday with me, that I thought that I had my lecture on 15th, but in the morning I was sending a couple of people this invite of IIPA, and I realized that my lecture is not on 15th, my lecture is on 14th. And this was when I was sending Kushi this particular invite that I had, and then there was this chill that went up my spine, that oh, my lecture, I mean, I need to prepare for that lecture. And this is not the first time that has happened with me. This is something that has happened with me multiple times in life, and the lesson is that always don't assume things, always check and recheck. And that also reminds me of checking. In my initial few attempts, I used to get at least 4 or 5 questions wrong, because I knew the answer. Like in UPSC, you have to mark A, B, C. Or which one? Statement 1 is correct, 2 is incorrect, and 4 is correct. I used to mark it correct on the sheet, but when I was translating it to the OMR, I used to mark at least 3 to 4 questions wrong. And this is something that you will do. Trust me, these are five to 6 questions initially you will do it wrong because of lack of attention. So make sure that you get that practice as well, because this is something which is we as in tennis we call it as unforced error. This is something you can't afford. Unforced errors in an exam like this, where the cutoffs are so I mean, the exam is so tough, you have to cut down on all kinds of unforced errors. Chalo. So let's start with the Indian Express, folks. The first news, which will be repeated 2-3 times, is Twitter's chief says threatened with shutdown raids, government says outright lie. Now this is basically a news with respect to multiple, and we have an editorial on this, we have an explained page on this, we have this thing, a normal article on this. Now this is part of your paper number internet governance as well. It could be a part of ethics as well. So multiple areas you can include this, paper number 2, paper number 3, paper number 4 as well, even in your essays. Now the issue that I want you to read about is the new internet rules that were there in 2021. Now they have asked every particular social media organization that if they want to have the safe harbor rules. Now what is the safe harbor rules? The safe harbor rule says that since you are an intermediary, you're not generating information, you are just an intermediary, you will not be liable for whatever is published till you, if something is being pointed out to you, and you are able to block that, particular thing, then you will be given that safe harbor provision. And in 2021 the government came up with chief compliance officer as a particular job that, and a particular role that every social media organization needs to have. And the work of this chief information officer will be to coordinate and liaison with the government of India with respect to whatever government of India needs. So for the government of India wants that certain accounts should be banned or certain tweets should be removed, then that will be communicated to that particular organization chief compliance officer. And this is regarding freedom of speech and expression and independence of business. Is it does it curb freedom of speech and expression? At the same point of time, Elon Musk, when he took over this particular company, had shown that Twitter per se also has a left leaning. So every organization could have a leaning, an ideology. And what Elon Musk said, that the organization itself was a little left leaning. That means they were a little pro Democrats and a little against Republicans. So it's not as if that Twitter is someone who we should judge by things, that what they decide and what they think should matter. But at the same point of time, we have to also kind of see that if a particular request which is made by the government is because of political reasons, is because of partisan reasons, is because of the fact that they want to curb some kind of free speech. So these internet handling rules of 2021 was in news. And in fact, what you need to also read is there are new IT rules that were introduced in 2023, which is based on fact checking. That every particular government has set up this organization in PIB, which basically checks for every news or every article which is being reported. And if the government feels that it doesn't comply with the facts, then it will be communicated to the social media organization, and it needs to take down that particular news. But again, that is basically the government taking government is accumulating too much power with itself, acting as the judge and the jury, whether which news is fact or which news is not fact. So these are the typical issues that you will read upon, not just today, even not just yesterday, but even today you will find some articles. One of the best article that was there in yesterday's newspapers was by Apar Gupta. We'll be talking about that. So so the government basically says and so the government basically says that we have not banned any of these social media apps, and but these apps have to comply with the rule of the land. So that is where an ethical dilemma also lies, that these apps cannot say that we will not comply with the rules of the law or and laws of the land. And for them to comply, India is a huge market, folks. So India is one of the biggest market for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So they have to comply to whatever the government says. But at the same point of time, they should not be coerced to, just because they have large economic interest there here. They should not be coerced to basically a clamp down on freedom of speech and expression. So these are the two basic articles. Jack Dorsey had given this particular statement. Then another thing that you can probably mention, a typical word that we have in the 21st century is weaponized misinformation. This weaponized usually we use this word in nuclear science. In nuclear science, you have weaponized fissile material, you have basically enriched your uranium to an extent that it can now become plutonium, and you can then weaponize it. And that brings me to the point that you should know about different kinds of nuclear power plants and nuclear enrichment as well. This is something that you can probably note down, that what is the process of uranium enrichment. Whenever you have time on Sunday, just read about this. How does that process happen, and how does the natural uranium is converted into plutonium, and then it becomes a weaponized fissile material. So the term here used is weaponized misinformation, that the government basically or Twitter was basically spreading misinformation. And why is it weaponizing? The word weaponizing is used because this can change the histories of and the political structures of countries. And you can give examples of the Trump election of 2016. It was a complete election which was run on weaponizing misinformation. You can give examples of Cambridge Analytica. If you don't know about this, you can probably read about this, what Cambridge Analytica did in 2016 with respect to Trump's election, and also during Brexit. So this is the new misinformation era that we are living in. Then come to the editorial page. something with respect to a case study. uh, you can probably mention this in one of your case studies in essay or ethics. You can write it down for folks. I think there are a couple of you who are writing names, I think. uh, or are they here? Okay. What you can mention here is a lot of these states. If you see, although it's a little political, but you can see it across the spectrum. What is happening in Maharashtra? What is happening in MP? These both these, the deputy CM Fadnavis and Shivraj Singh Chauhan, both of them come out to be, naturally they come out to be liberal leaders. They are from the right wing, but both of them usually are well educated liberal leaders. But in the last few months, just to come to the national prevalence, both of these leaders have become very hawkish in terms of their religious, the way that they have been supporting certain religious organizations, as well as the kind of speeches, the kind of hate speeches that they have been giving. And this is with respect to closing down and shutting off of a English, of a English medium school, which is in Damo, Ganga Jamuna Higher Secondary School. And because of just because of the fact that in their morning routine, in their morning prayers, they used to sing about Iqbal. Iqbal was the person who basically gave the two nation theory, actually, and the concept of India and Pakistan actually came from Iqbal. So just because they were humming the lyrics of Iqbal, that doesn't give you that authority of going after the particular school. And this particular news can be used in your ethics, where uh, the government has not acted in a justified manner. You can't have this bulldozer. You usually have this bulldozer politics that happens in UP, but for the first time that I'm seeing that bulldozers are being used to coerce schools as well. So this is something that you can take down as an example. Then the other news is denial no is no answer. Um and this is where Twitter has also been. So it's not as if that Twitter is beyond doubt. Twitter also has in the past has acted in very arbitrary and shrouded opacity. And remember, these are now public these they have this fiduciary responsibility, all these organizations, because these are platforms where people are coming and representing their views. So they too have their responsibility. They cannot be biased, and they cannot work in opacity. And this is the article which talks about that. But at the same point of time, if you what has been reported by Twitter is that in the last 6 months of 2021, there were 326 legal demands to block content posted by verified journalists and news companies. And of those of those 326, one third, more than one third, came from India. So India, despite being a democracy, India has been clamping down on information, especially from news organizations as well as from journalists. So this is something which basically tends towards that the government is clamping down on free speech. But even more important is this particular article, which talks about a little bit about the Jack Dorsey statement, but it's a beautiful article on our digital net by Apar Gupta, Holes in Digital Net. Now, and this is an article which also teaches you the art of critical writing. This is something that I want you to develop, that art of critical writing. Remember that article that I told you yesterday, the article by that IPS officer about that shoe not fitting. uh, See, develop that art. That should how your answer writing will, that should how your essay should be, that the person unwillingly would lead to reading your, will lead to especially for your essay, not for your GS, but especially for your essay, the person is interested to know what you are writing. I was hooked on to that particular article, because I wanted to read that what else does she have to write, or what else does she have to offer. So something like that, that kind of a reflective analysis you should have. Now coming to this particular news, now there have been this news was already there that the data from Covin platform of Aadhaar, PAN card, passport, voter ID, mobile numbers has been breached. And the once this has been, this was there in news, the government machinery wasn't working. First they said that this was mischievous. The second statement came from Rajiv Chandrasekhar, which said that this was previously stolen data. We had no news about previously stolen data. And then the next kind of news that came by the end of the day was from PIB, which was Covin portal is completely safe. Now, this basically shows that the government is not doing a reflective exercise. There are no digital audits that the government does. And this is also true when it comes to CERT. Remember, I told you to read about this organization called Computer Emergency Response Team India, CERT in. Now, this particular organization has been is basically the nodal office whenever there is any threat, cyber threat. This particular organization comes to foray. But at the same point of time, this particular organization does not run these regular audits, as well as why these leaks happened, why these data breaches happened. Their reports are not put to public so that other organizations can learn from it. And you need to know, when you are writing such answers, you need to give examples. So an example of EFPO data breach in August 2022, the example of AIMS data breach in November 2022. And another thing that other two things that you should mention is that there was this national cyber security strategy that was there in public consultation in December 2019, but it has not been finalized till now. And finally, the digital or the data protection act, which is missing in case of India. We've been talking about it for the last 10 years, but it's not there. So, and even the draft data protection bill, government entities are exempted from compliance. And remember, government is a major data aggregator, so they should be at the forefront of protecting their data. They should be at the forefront of data privacy. And this comes at a point where India in its G20 meetings is championing the idea of DPI, digital public infrastructure. Now, what is this digital public infrastructure? It is based on, it is not just UPI. It is UPI plus Aadhaar plus your ONDC. We have talked about this ONDC also. ONDC, your National Health Service, National Digital Health Service. All of these pillars, you are linking every part of our life. When it comes to finances, it's UPI. When it comes to identification, it is Aadhaar. When it comes to authentication or identification, it's Aadhaar. When it comes to health, you have this your National Digital Health Mission. When it comes to education, you have DigiLocker. So all of these are part of what we call as India Stack. So now this India Stack for then you have your health. For health, you have Arogya Setu. So, and then for markets, you have GEM portal as well as this ONDC. So we have created this huge infrastructure, public digital infrastructure. But the best critical analysis that I've seen is on the second in the second column, where this person who's an advocate who he argues that none of these except for Aadhaar. By the way, Aadhaar has been given legal status because of the fact that it was brought as a money bill. You can read about that controversy. Aadhaar has nothing to do with the money bill, but it was introduced in the parliament as a money bill so that it faces no scrutiny in Rajya Sabha, where the BJP doesn't have numbers. So, except for Aadhaar, there is no legal backing to any of these other bodies, and some of them are with private partnerships as well. or joint ventures as well, and all of them are through either some kind of special purpose vehicle or joint ventures, which basically avoids any kind of audits by CAG, and no legal responsibilities of government of India. If there is a legal responsibility, if it's a government body, then you have CAG, which can always come into play. So basically, the government is not creating legal structures for the entire India stack that it is creating, and that's one of the major critical points against India stack. Then I've already told you that these are data guzzlers. All the government apps are data guzzlers just because of the sheer size of the society that we have. We have more than 100 crore people who are signed up on the CoWIN app. So see the amount of data that we have, and the implications of losing that data into in the hands of hackers. So this is something that is there, and the last part is the same, which is there, Jack Dorsey article. So this is an article that you should read. The other one is Not Like a Friend. Now this is an article with respect to the strained relationship that India and Canada is having. One of the irritants in the India Canada relationship is that of the space that extremist elements have gained, or the foothold that extremist elements have gained in Canada, and they are champions of the Canadian government is basically arguing that they are champions of liberalism and liberal views, but that liberal views cannot be a justification for the security and integrity of our country. And that is that even the honorable your defense or not foreign minister had mentioned that this is a major strain, that pro Khalistani elements, gangsters are getting a lot of space in Canada. And that's one of the reasons is that this particular, they are fringe elements. Even you have a huge Sikh community in Canada, but even within them there is this fringe community which supports these extremist views, but because of their muscle and money power, that they are be able to exert their pressures on in Canadian Parliament. So in Canadian Parliament you have now an overwhelming representation of Indians, especially Sikh Indians, and they are basically, because of the kind of money and muscle power that they have gained, which was traditionally a part of Indian politics. We have imported that part of Indian politics even in Canada, where even Justin Trudeau is not able to take any strong decision on these elements. So this is one thing, and this despite the fact that India and in terms of economics, India and Canada are getting closer. That they're already negotiating this early progress trade agreement, and then they're moving towards a comprehensive partnership agreement. Now, which brings me to a point that what you need to read. I want you to read about what are PTAs, preferential trade agreements, what are FTAs, what is a customs union, what is a monetary union, and what is an economic union. These are 5-step process of economic integration, and after that comes CEPA. Okay? Or in between them comes CEPA, not after that. So read about this progression that happens in economic integration. The first step being PTA, the second step being FTA, the third step being actually CEPA, third step. Then you have customs union, then you have monetary union, and then you have economic union. I want you to read about this transition that happens. Okay. Then we all need Darwin is again a reflective. Remember that article that we had read day before yesterday of the Vice Chancellor of JNU, who said that because of the pressures of COVID, what we have done is we have just rearranged and removed the duplicity that is there in terms of text that is there. Now, this particular article is an eye opener. At least for me, it was an eye opener. A lot of theocratic countries like Egypt, Tunisia, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Algeria, Oman, a lot of them are theocratic countries, and a lot of them do not expose students to the idea of Darwin, because Darwin tells you theocratic basically means countries run by religious by religion, where religion is more important than anything else. These are not countries which are run by these are not republics. Elected representatives are not there. They are theocratic in the sense that religious leaders and religious philosophy is the underlying factor behind the state. So Turkey is an example. Although Turkey now has become more theocratic, but Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan, all of these are countries which are theocratic states. Now, so all of them do not teach the idea of Charles Darwin, because Charles Darwin's idea is that of basically evolution of human. It basically counters that view that God created all of us. It tells us that there is, it basically gives us that analytical mind that it's not God who has created all of us. It's the nature of evolution that has emerged. And if you read that article by that vice chancellor, she had also mentioned in her article that this is a point of debate. Now, a vice chancellor of a huge organization, educational organization like JNU, saying that the theory of Darwin is not universal, is something that we need to ponder upon. That what is it that she wants to say. And this is what this particular article also says, that a lot of these theocratic states have said that the theory of Darwin is an unproven hypothesis, and that's why they have not included them, because again all of them would say that it's God who has created. God can take different forms. It can take form of Allah. It can take form of even in form of Christianity. A lot of schools in US also do not teach used to do not did not used to teach about Charles Darwin's theory until unless the Supreme Court of US intervened. So both sides, whether you take Christianity or you take Islam, both of them, the right wing elements, were not teaching these. And we have somehow also started to tread on those lines, where the extremist part of our society have also started believing in the unproven hypothesis of Charles Darwin. So this part of article talks about this. And to counter that narrative that the government was saying, that it has only reordered stuff, but reordering Charles Darwin theory to 11th class, which is basically including it into the biology books of class 11th. Not all students will take biology. Only a handful of students will take biology as a subject. This is something which is so elementary that it should have been read by every student. And all of us are coming through that system, and all of us read Charles Darwin during our class 8th, class 9th, when our critical mind was being developed. So that is what this article says. Then another article, A World to Win. I just found a couple of things very interesting in this. uh, it is on the second column, first paragraph, that in India the amount of unemployment that is there is such that 140 crore people are there, but only 3 crore people are paying these taxes. So one information that you can always write is with respect to this. And another thing that you can also write in your optional in your answers is that UPSC itself sees around 1 million aspirants for 1,000 success, which is essentially translates into nationally 1 million man years. A 1 million man years are wasted, क्योंकि one person is wasting an year. 1 million man years are wasted for competing for 30,000 odd man hour worth of subsequent careers. So you're using 10 lakh days, man days, for a potential 30,000 hours of work that you will be able to generate across 30 years. So this is where there's a huge wastage of resources, what he's talking about. But this particular article is basically talking about and it's kind of a riposte to the news that the IIT director, Madras director, had said that engineers are not taking engineering jobs. So that is what this particular article is talking about. It's basically because of the fact that when you are exposed to engineering, and that's not just in India, that's across the world, when you are exposed to engineering, and again, the idea of critical analysis, folks. Why do engineers do well? Engineers do well because of the fact that they have exposed to multiple things which can be used in other areas as well. Because you're exposed to mathematics, because you're exposed to real hard learning, their ability to do other part of social sciences becomes very easy. For someone who's very well trained in computer science, who's very well trained in differentiation, integration, mathematics, for that person to apply that to analytics, to apply that knowledge to banking, is something which is very easy for them. And the other problem is that we have not been able to create more engineering jobs. That's a problem. People are moving towards, why would someone move from engineering to non-engineering? They would move if there is an economic incentive there, and we can't stop that incentive. So we should not stop. This article says we should not stop that incentive, because that would again be a restriction on freedom of what you want to do. But at the same point of time, we need to think of creating more engineering jobs then, to suit their career. Then coming to one of the most important articles that I think you folks were also discussing, I'll also research on that. El Nino and the Monsoon, a very very important article. This article gives you the entire summary of how El Nino works. Now, I want you to read about what this. There are two cells that are working when it comes to environment. When it comes to monsoon, there is something called as a Hadley cell, and the other cell is called as a Walker cell. Now, both these cells you need to understand to see that how the climate is working. Now, in a normal year, so this is basically interaction of two things. This is interaction of when we talk about El Nino, La Nina, and the impact on monsoons and rainfall. This is interaction of both sea level temperatures with atmospheric pressures. Both of these things, complex things, interact with each other to produce this impact. Now, what usually happens is that you have in oceans, you have this gyre circulation. What is this gyre circulation? This gyre circulation is that in the Southern Ocean, the ocean currents move from how do I put it? They move in a they move in an anti-clockwise manner. Now let me show you how that anti-clockwise manner shows. That suppose you have America on this side, you have Australia on this side. Now what happens is that the gyre circulation, the ocean currents work from the fact that the current goes from South America towards or through at the point of equator. It moves, the ocean currents move from South America towards Australia, and from Australia it moves towards Southern Ocean, and then from Southern Ocean it moves towards South America again, and then towards from Southern Ocean to the northern aspect, to the northern point of South America. Can you understand this loop that is happening? This loop, this gyre circulation, and this gyre circulation in the northern hemisphere is basically in clockwise manner. So you have this entire circle that is, or a kind of a rectangle that is being created in southern oceans, be it any southern ocean, take below the equator, in southern Indian Ocean, be it southern Atlantic Ocean. All of these oceans have in the south, they have this kind of a gyre circulation. Now, uh, what typically happens is that, see, uh, because the equator, the area near the equator is receives a lot of sunlight, the kind of ocean current that moves from America to Australia and from Australia to Southern Ocean are all warm currents, because the water is very warm here, because of the heat that the sun is generating. All this area is basically a warm area that is there. So typically on the Australian coast you have a warm current that is operating, and then this water gets cooled because of the Southern Ocean, because of Antarctic Ocean. There is a preponderance of cold water there. This water gets cooled down, and then it moves towards the coast of South America, and where it becomes what is called as Agulhas or Humboldt current. You can read about this Humboldt current, and it becomes a cold current, and then again this cold current moves around the equator to reach back to Australia. So first thing that you need to understand is the current system that is operating, and wherever you have a warm current, there, if the water is warm, then there will be more evaporation. If there is more evaporation, what will happen? That you will have convectional rainfall. So typically on the eastern coast of Australia you will always have rainfalls, because of the fact that it has a warm current there. And on the coast of Peru, on the coast of Chile, you have a desert, because you have a cold current there. Cold current you have high pressures. High pressure is basically where you will not get that rising of air, and if there is no rising of air, there will be no clouds, no rainfall. So typically, and that's why you find Atacama Desert there. And this is something that you will always find on western boundaries of all continents, be it Thar Desert, be it Sahara Desert, be it Atacama Desert, be it the desert in Namibia. All of them are, because so that is where geography becomes very important. You need to see why are these deserts, or why are they, all these continents have deserts on their western border. It's because of the cold current. I'll talk about the downswelling and I'll talk about the downswelling and the upswelling as well. Now, this is one part of the story that you need to understand. The other part of the story is that there is winds basically travel from high pressure to low pressure. So typically what happens is that you have this high pressure that is there at the Australian coast, at the American coast, and you have this low pressure that is there at the Australian coast. So what happens is that the winds will try to move at the surface of the ocean. The winds will try to move from South America towards Australia. This is from high pressure to low pressure. But at the same point of time, if you see the circulation of winds, the circulation of wind is that it moves from high pressure to low pressure, and because there is low pressure at the point of Australia, these winds will start to rise because of more evaporation, because of more heat. The winds will start to rise and reach the atmospheric troposphere level. And if there is low pressure at the surface level, there is high pressure, there is relatively high pressure in the atmosphere. And from that high pressure, the winds will move towards, again the upper tropospheric winds will move towards the low pressure at the atmosphere, at the tropospheric height of South America. And from there it will again go towards it will go down from that high pressure towards low pressure, from low pressure towards high pressure at the American coast. So two things to remember: at the surface level, winds move from high pressure to low pressure, but when it's rising or falling, the winds move from low pressure to high pressure. So जब रेनफॉल हो रही है, Just say for example, if there is heat, if suppose there is there's a lot of heat that is being produced in northern hemisphere these days, because of the apparent movement of the sun. So what is happening is the earth is getting warm, and because of that the air rises. So basically there is a movement when you call this as convectional current. In case of convectional current, air moves from low pressure to high pressure, but in general the air moves from high pressure to low pressure. So you have this atmospheric current as well, you have this Gyre circulation, and the other thing that you have is that atmospheric Gyre circulation, which is also called as this this Hadley cell that is there. Now an interaction of these two elements basically creates this entire phenomenon. Now what to add to that is, now what I'm going to tell you is about El Nino. Now typically in a normal year what happens is you have these trade winds, and because of these trade winds, which is also called as I'm forgetting the name of that particular kind of wind that is there. So winds are moving toward from South America towards Australia. And what are they do? Easterlies, yes, easterlies. What they are doing, is that they are also pushing the water. Remember that Gyre circulation that I have talked about? They are pushing the water alongside from the coast of America, South America, towards that of Australia and Philippines. So what happens is that there is this slope that is created, that there is much larger amount of water that is available at the coast of Australia and the coast of Philippines, and there is lesser water available and on the coast of South America. And this water now, because all the water has now moved here, this water is now being replaced on the coast of Atacama. This water is being replaced by cold current coming from Southern Ocean, and this is the normal year. And because of all this phenomena, what you have is a normal rainfall on the coast of Australia, and Philippines receive a lot of rainfall as compared to that of South America. Now what happens in an El Nino year? In an El Nino year, these trade winds, these easterlies start to slow down, and because these easterlies do not push so much of pressure, some amount of this, because of this slope, some amount of this water starts to crawl back again towards the coast of South America. So imagine this warm water which was supposed to reach Australia and Philippines is now slipping back towards South America, and that leads to a position where you have creation of low pressure, surface level low pressure in South America, and that leads to rainfall in South America. But at the same point of time, because the easterlies are now weak, because the pressure difference between the coast of South America and the coast of Australia is now weak, the winds, there is no longer a very high pressure in South America and a very low pressure in Australia. The winds are weak, and that is why the rainfall in Australia is weak, and you have droughts in Australia, you have fires in Australia on its eastern coast, and that has a relationship on India as well, because there is another Walker cell which is there's another Hadley cell which is operating in the southern Indian Ocean as well. So this is the phenomena that you need to understand when it comes to El Nino. This has been explained in terms of diagram. I have not been able to explain you in terms of diagram. Maybe in some other class when we have time, I'll explain you this phenomena with a diagram. But there are enough number of YouTube videos that you can watch on this particular phenomena. I hope I've been able to somehow explain that there are two phenomena that are there, that are there. Both the Gyre circulation is important and the atmospheric circulation is important. And don't try to learn this, folks. Don't try to mug this up. If you try to mug this up, you'll go wrong. I'm teaching this after say 5-6 years, but still it's clear to me because it's clear from logic that how this is working. So if you get the logic, especially in climatology, folks, if you get the logic right, you will not go wrong. And if you're able to work out climatology, you'll be able to work out a lot of environment questions as well, and a lot of soil and other questions. So therefore, when you're studying geography, give a lot of emphasis to environment, to climatology. Climatology and oceanography are key to understanding a lot of phenomena. A lot of even human geography can be understood with this. Geomorphology is important for resource economics, but climatology per se, I would say, is very, very important. So read about this article, what this says. The other thing is, why is Arunachal Pradesh facing protests? So Arunachal Pradesh has recently had enacted a legislation which is Arunachal Pradesh Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. It is modeled on an act which even India had, Unlawful Protection Activities Act. Now, under this particular law, any particular organization or any particular person can be put behind bars if they are acting in a manner prejudicial to state or maintenance of public order. So it gives huge powers to the state to basically put anyone behind bars just on the mere suspicion that their activities are unlawful. So it gives too much power into the hands of the state government, and they can be detained for sufficient cause for 6 months. And recently this has been used, because of the protests that were happening because of the leaking of paper of this Arunachal Pradesh Public Service Commission. So read about this particular article. Then we have already talked about why US had walked out of UNESCO and now it is joining UNESCO. I told you to read about all the specialized bodies of UN. And if you don't get material, you can Google it up, or what you can also do is, there is this book that I used to read during my days, which was Spectrum's International Organizations. I'm not sure if that book is still available, but that used to be a decent book to study all these organizations. Then we'll read about stunting middle class. We have already crossed a lot of time. We'll read about this stunting of middle class tomorrow. Do remind me that I have to complete this topic. It was part of that two-part article. And the other news that you need to read is with respect to bank unions slam RBI's decision on allowing compromise settlements for willful defaulters. This is a news that we had talked about. You can read this news, and the last news that you can talk about is disinflation process to be slow. Now, there is a difference between deflation and disinflation. A lot of students get confused with respect to that. Always remember, if there is a word inflation mentioned, that means that the price rise is still happening. Deflation means something which used to cost 5 rupees is now costing, say, 3 rupees. That is called as deflation, reduction in prices. But reduction in pace of inflation is called as deflation. So think about a car. A car which was speeding at the speed of 60 is now moving at the speed of 40. This is called as deceleration. This is not going reverse. This is called as deceleration, reducing the pace. That is called as disinflation. And if it is going in the opposite direction, taking a reverse direction, that is called as deflation. So read about what is this deflation process. An important point for economics optional students as well, because it involves something called as sacrifice ratio and Okun's law. So this is something that you need to mention in your economics as well. You must have studied this, and you need to study it for your optional as well. This process of Okun's law and sacrifice ratio. So that is all that we need to do today, folks. I've not covered today's Hindu because of paucity of time. If I find another article from Hindu, I'll cover it tomorrow. So we meet tomorrow, folks, at same time at 5 a.m. And on Sunday we are also meeting for a larger discussion. Okay, folks. Thank you very much. Let's meet tomorrow at 5. Bye bye.